Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new RGM Experience podcast with me, Carl Maloney, the host. And we're here again in another week of music with a talented young man called James Holt. Hi, mate.
Hello, thanks for having me on the podcast.
You're very welcome, mate. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm just very busy at the moment. Just a
Yes.
lot of going on. All music related, all
Yeah.
all exciting and all fun and interesting. So it's
Yeah.
good. It's good to be busy, as they say, isn't
Yes.
it?
Especially after the last few couple of years or so. It's
That's
just,
true.
is it taking a bit of time to adjust to being busy again?
Um, no, it took me. It was kind of weird how. Because I sort of built it up in my head this whole like the whole past year,
Yeah.
and thinking, oh no, when I'm on stage again, it's going to be like
Magic.
I'll have to learn how to interact with an audience and play live, um, because we've literally been out of practice. We've not had chance to. We can practice in our rooms, but it's not the same, is it?
No. No.
Um, and yeah, and I sort of built it up in my own head, and I did my first. I think my first gig was like it was at the Octagon
Mm.
Theatre in Bolton, and it was just like nothing had ever you know it
Happened.
hadn't it was like yeah just got back on stage and it was fine and um yeah, to answer your question, it's been great to just have it kind of have gigs coming in and
Yeah.
things happen, you know. um yeah, how about you? How have you found
Well,
it?
I was really busy before lockdown, and then lockdown just took it all away. Well, didn't take it all away. The RGM just got busier and busier because everybody started doing things online, and it worked out quite well, to be honest. But going back into the wide old world again and attending gigs all the time, it's took a little bit of adjusting. Only in the way that I think like you, I'd built it up in my head to be like, oh, it's going to be amazing to go out again, and it was a little bit of an anticlimax. Just being back in
Mm.
the world again, it was almost as if everybody just clicked straight back into it again. And for me and the people around me, really, it's been fun. But it has taken a little bit to adjust, just in the way that I were expecting it to be a little bit more livelier out there, if you get me.
Yeah, I think that as well. I think it was part of because it was like a sort of staggered
Yeah.
uh, comeback. It was because like the gig that I mentioned at the Octagon,
Mm.
that was for Right to Rome festival, and that was I think just before the July
Yeah.
like reopening. So it was everything was sort of everyone was sort of sat in different places um and like everyone was spread out. So it didn't. Yeah, it's not.
We I suppose we got little tastes of the real life throughout it all, didn't we? So we got little samples of it. Then it got taken away again. Then you get another going out. Then it got text. So it's been taken away again. But the music industry, everything went for the whole period of it all, didn't it? There were definitely no gigs inside and in the smaller venues like there are now. So I
I mean,
suppose
like
that so the music
even
industry's taken a bit to.
yeah, even like the social distancing gigs,
Mm,
like everybody knew it wasn't sustainable to do it because they couldn't make enough money. They made the
yeah,
money on selling the tickets, and even the venues
mm,
couldn't make the money. So it was more of a case of, I mean, in a way it was good because like the people putting on the gigs, the social distancing events were doing it just for like you know the passion of putting gigs on,
mm,
and like they weren't trying to make money by selling tickets. They knew that people were dying to go out and play gigs, so
yeah.
they were trying to fulfill that. um yeah, it's a strange, like I thought, to be honest, I thought that there would have been a bit of a shift in the music industry, because it's like it's heavily reliant on live music and
Mm,
putting on like performances to sort of generate the like industry economy. That's where bands earn the money by going on tour and selling um, tickets. And if something like this, if something like the pandemic happens where we literally can't do any gigs, then all of that money supply stops,
Mm.
and there's no way um, for like bands to earn money. And I thought it would sort of try and, I don't know, like just like people would try and invent new ways of
Mm.
earning money, and a new thing would come out of it. And in some ways it has, but in other ways it's not, and it's like you said, sort of reverted back to how we were. And I didn't really fully, like if we're talking about sort of the golden era where like bands would sell like loads of records.
Yeah.
um if the pandemic happened, then they could still make albums and just release them, and then
Mm.
um like and still make a lot of money without having to tour. But because everybody, like they said, stop, like we can't do any gigs, then the whole you know deck house of cards sort of
Yeah.
collapsed, as it were.
Well,
I think
definitely.
there was a was there something ridiculous um I don't know the actual percentage, so I don't really want to say, but it was like a quite a high percentage of jobs, or people in the jobs in the music industry have just completely stopped and moved to another
Yeah.
sector. I think it was like something like it's like 30% or something
Yeah.
have completely, like, either the jobs have gone, i.e. like promoters or whatever, venues, sound engineers, like all the sort of you know
Crew type roles.
yeah, yeah, or artists. Either that has gone, or people have just decided to find other jobs and moved elsewhere and not come back. And I know tons of people like that. I've got tons of friends who were musicians who were either making their own music or playing in other people's bands and making money that way, like on cruise ships or whatever.
Mm.
And they've had to find other sources of income, and they found it more sustainable, um, and
Just like
more.
general 9 to 5 jobs type thing,
Yeah,
where they're
yeah,
just
yeah,
they're used to having a steady income again, instead of being in
yeah.
the wide old world of music where nothing's certain. You don't know where your next paycheck's going to come from unless you.
And because they've had a taste of that over the past year, they're like, oh, this is, I'm not as stressed as I was before. Um, and yeah, and like I said, I know a lot of people who've, since
Mm.
like moved on and moved away, and that, yeah, it's a strange one.
Well, the part of this podcast is sharing experiences, and it's called the RGM Experience because we want to talk about grassroots music and in the industry. So we'll come to that. We'll park that for now, I think, James. But I just want to talk about it, and let's not forget you're an award winner now as well.
Oh yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah.
We'll come to that in a minute as well. We'll tease with that, and you're going to be doing a song for us
Uh,
at the end of the podcast as well. So I just want to rewind a little bit, James, and for anybody that's not aware of who you are and what you do, tell us a little bit about you and your history.
so I am a musician from Bolton, which
Done.
is in Greater Manchester. Um, and yeah, I've been writing songs since I was probably about 18, 19. And like that was kind of when I first started writing songs, and then I kind of progressively started to do it even like more and more. And yeah, I started playing the piano when I was 5, guitar when I was 9, cello when I was 11.
Why did he pick keyboard first?
Well, it was well. So it was my grandparents, or my parents had an old
Oh yeah.
piano in the house,
Oh,
and
okay.
when I was a kid, I used to try and play,
Yeah.
like reach up and try and play the keys. But I was talking to someone about this recently, like because I was born deaf,
Yeah.
and I was diagnosed like deaf when I was 4, okay, or 4 or 5, and like up to the point that I was diagnosed, I hadn't worn like hearing aids or anything, so I kind of got by copying what other people did, and um, like I could hear, but like I can like when I take my hearing aids out, I can hear, but only like a really tiny amount.
Yeah.
And I was kind of really reliant on lip reading, and I still kind of do that as well.
Yeah.
Um, and so I've kind of thought about like someone had mentioned this to me where when I was diagnosed and was given me hearing aids for the first time, and that was the first time I could like really hear the sort of wider world and
Yeah.
lots of different lots of different sounds that I hadn't heard before. And then it was like around that time that I'd first started becoming quite engaged and fascinated with this big wooden box that was in my parents' like house, and and I think part of it's funny because part of it to me it feels like because it's like my disability, but it's part of me, but it's also led led to the thing that's kind of that I'm most sort of passionate about in my
Mm.
life, and um and that's only like a recent thing that I've sort of realized, and it's quite nice that I've got that connection with it,
Yeah.
because I know a lot of people like I struggled a lot when I was growing up because I was different to people like when I was like in school, and when you're in school that's like the worst possible thing to be different because everybody sort of either picks you out or like treats you differently, and I always wanted to be the same as everybody else. And then when you kind of grow up you realize that everybody's different anyway.
Yeah.
Everybody's
It's
you
better to
know
be different
yeah, yeah,
when you get your head around it, and and it's not as school's really important at the time, but when you get a little bit older and you can reflect on it a bit, the more interesting people are the
mm,
weirdos in the world.
yeah. But
And I like embracing those. Uh, I consider myself to be one, so
yeah,
I think it's allowed to say.
yeah. It's not just like even like the sort of more eccentric people. I
Yeah.
think everybody anyway is different, and everybody's got their own like understanding of the world.
Mm.
And I think because you're young, you have a sort of narrow viewpoint, and the older you get, the more experience you have, the more you realize that there's lots of different things that it can
Mm.
interest you and feel passionate about. And yeah, it's just been a nice sort of like realization, sort of like full circle of um kind of understanding that part about me, like
Mm.
why I enjoy music so much. And like I think as well, like last year, like I think a lot of people had felt this in a similar way, as like especially musicians and um like actors and creative people who perform, is that the like I felt that through the lack of performance, it had a direct impact on like my like mental well-being.
Mm.
And I found that like I hadn't really made that connection before, because I was always making music. I was always sort of busy, as it
Mm.
were, and just doing. I hadn't really realized how sort of crucial music was, to my life,
Yeah.
and like I said, my mental well-being. And that was like a kind of another point of realization of kind of through like the lockdown,
Yeah.
was that that like something that I can easily, like, if I know now, like if I feel a bit, if I feel a bit down, if I have a bad day or whatever,
Yeah.
I can always just pick up a guitar, play a song, and
Yeah.
I know it will help in some way, and in many ways it helps other people as well.
Yeah.
um yeah, it's just a wonderful thing.
Yeah. So when did you realize? So young James looking up at this big box in the corner of the room, picks up a guitar a few years later. When did you start to realize you had a talent for picking up new instruments and getting good at them quickly?
I think it was probably like early high school age, and I think just that kind of the kind of process that like you sort of explained, just like I played the piano and then I played the guitar and then the cello.
Mm.
Um, and it was, I don't know, it's like it's it sort of to me it just sort of felt natural, like even just
Cello,
learning.
the
Yeah,
cello. But
yeah.
the thing that
Even
haunts me
even
about
that
a
was
cello
like,
is the size of the fucking thing, and
yeah.
and having to, if you are going to take on the cello, then you're going to need a big space to keep it and a van to get to a gig.
Yeah.
It intimidated me too much. That.
I had all the sort of what you've got, what have you got in there jokes.
Yeah.
Was walking into school with um and yeah, and I think even learning the cello, it was just a sort of random thing that happened. Like I think I wanted to learn. I think I wanted to learn. I've always wanted to learn like a wind instrument, like saxophone or clarinet or something like
Yeah.
that. And I went to lesson. No, I went to like a trial
Mm.
for clarinet, and they were like, oh, your mouth's not the right shape or something like that.
Yes. I've
And
had an
like,
experience of that.
yeah,
My dad used to play the cornet in Woodhouse Prize
right,
Band in Sheffield, and I always liked the look of that instrument because it's quite a cool instrument, a cornet, like a little trumpet type thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I borrowed his, and I couldn't play it right, and I learned the brass instrument. I got quite good, but my lips weren't the right shape, so I moved on to a tenor horn, which were a little bit bigger, the mouthpiece for it, and I got quite good at the tenor horn when I was like 13, 14. Got trials for
really.
Sheffield City Band and that kind of stuff.
Huh.
And then I got all the same kind of stuff when you're walking into school and you're carrying a music instrument and it's shaped like one, and you get all the
Yeah,
kids who think they're funny and that. And I kind of fell out with it because it wasn't in my uh, world. It wasn't like a cool instrument. So when I turned like 15, 16, I got into the guitar, and then that were it. Then as soon as I found the guitar, that was just like me done. And I
yeah,
kind of left the brass playing. Uh, I just kind of parked it, and it's one of my biggest regrets not parking it and never going back to it because I wouldn't be able to play it now if you get me. So that for me that's just a little memory of having a weird shaped mouth and couldn't quite play the
you should
instrument that I
you
wanted
should
to play.
try. You should
Yeah,
try learning
I
again.
should. I should. Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, like that's kind of the similar thing. Like if you do something different, like if you play a brass instrument, you'll kind of get like picked out. But like if like now, it's like you know, I don't know. It's yeah. Anyway, what was it? So
It's
so I
weird.
was
So you can't play clarinet because you've got a weird shaped mouth.
yeah, and I was like, oh right, okay. Well, that's
The
that then.
reed, it's
But
the
I think
reed in it. A
part of
reedy
it's
thing.
yeah,
There's a technique
yeah.
of a reed, and you've got to have a certain shaped mouth. They don't teach you that in school, do you?
Yeah, I think
They
some
don't
of
like.
it, some of it was bollocks though. I
Yeah,
think some of it was like, I think part of it was like, oh, you already play guitar and piano, give someone else a go, and
yeah,
that's fair enough.
okay.
But like most of the people who would like picked up, they'd never carried on after like
Mm,
a few months anyway. You know what I mean? So they said. So I think my mum might have said to him, like I should say, like my parents have been like very supportive anyway of
yeah.
time. So that's been like a massive help. But I think my mum said to him, oh, he wants to learn an instrument,
Mm.
and they said, well, no one's picked cello. We've got some cello lessons for you.
Oh, okay.
He was like, what's a cello?
Yeah.
and that's kind of how, like, I didn't really pick it. Like someone else, it was just sort of available.
Oh, I thought you were going to
Um,
say something inspirational like the cello picked me or something like that. Then I was
yeah.
waiting for that.
No, yeah, it was more the case of like, the
Mm.
cello teacher had some space, or
Yes.
no
Okay.
one. or someone wanted to play cello and then decided they didn't want to play cello anymore, and then there was a, it's
Yeah.
funny how like the trajectory of your life can just change on the
Yeah.
smallest
Yeah.
little coincidence.
Did you write creatively as a kid? Because you are, I know you. Well, I just think you're a great storyteller with you. Because when I've seen you live and you perform, the last time I saw you, we were in the middle of the woods somewhere in Devonshire.
Oh yeah, yeah,
That thing, and you were playing down there at the Coldwater Swimmers. Like album launch type thing that we did in the woods, that were a cool night.
yeah, yeah.
And I've seen you play before, and you're a storyteller as well as you like to tell the story of a song before you play one. And did you write creatively as a kid? Is that something that you worked on, or does that come naturally as well?
I think it was like in terms of music writing, like I think previous to writing songs, I'd always written instrumental pieces. Like I would write like classical or jazz piano pieces and stuff for like orchestra and things like that. And what I wanted to do, kind of when I was maybe about 16, I wanted to be like a film composer, or
Mm,
write things for film and TV. And that was like my ambition. In a way, it's still there, and I think it's something that I probably will do later on.
mm,
Um, but it was kind of the music of the Beatles that introduced me. Like I kind of got like obsessed with them,
mm.
like like dangerously
Me too.
obsessed with them,
Oh,
and
okay, fair enough.
then became then so, like I kind of wanted to be a Beatle. Like I'd get upset that I was like I'll
I
never
might
be a
not a
Beatle.
Beatle.
You know what I mean? And it sort of changed the whole way. It changed the way like I'd I'd grew my hair out.
Yeah,
I'd try and talk like them,
yeah,
and, do like loads of embarrassing stuff, and um, and also like my music sort of started as I started to play their songs and started to think, oh, how would I write a song like theirs,
yeah.
and that's where it came in, and so but like previous to that I hadn't really written any songs or stories. I'd always tried to tell a story
Mm,
with the music, and that is a way that is kind of a crucial way that I write music
mm,
now is that I write all the music first and then think about how the music tells the story itself,
mm,
before adding any words to it. I'm thinking, which what kind of what thinking what story is the music telling? You know what I mean? What what is it saying just on its own?
yeah.
And then how can I add on that with words? And that's kind of the process that I've used, and it's worked, I think.
Yeah, there's
Most
there's an element of humor in there as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like you know, I'm just a funny guy, right? Like, yeah, I always like it's funny because I'd never been that into the Smiths until maybe like a few years ago.
Yeah,
But I've always written like Morrissey type sort of kitchen sink drama songs,
yeah.
um, that have that kind of see the humor in life, and
Mm,
kind of funny, like not whimsical but quite light-heartedness.
mm,
You know what I mean? And even in something that's quite um like sad sometimes, like heartbreak or whatever,
yeah.
I can find like always moments of like humor, or you
Mm.
know um or a lighter side to it that I can add. Yeah, I mean, it's funny that like I'd always been good at English, but not like, because you know how to separate English with like English literature and
And
English
language.
language.
Yeah.
And I like it's weird because I remember once when I was doing like GCSE English literature, and like and I'd really like I wouldn't know what, you know, metaphors are
Mm.
or similes. I wouldn't know the names of them, but I'd use them like all the time in my writing.
Mm.
It would just be something that would be so easy, like just I don't know, it's had like so easy and natural that um that I could just easily do it, and always like, you know, write little like not sort of poems but sort of raps as well, and I'd write sort of humorous raps for my like for friends, and then like read them out in class,
Yeah.
and and like and I don't know, I don't really know where that came from. And it was funny kind of because only till like relatively recently, this was like way before I'd started writing songs, and it was only till later on that I sort of combined these two elements. Um, yeah, it's just one of them. Like, and I never really enjoyed reading either. You know what I mean? Like usually,
I keep
like
buying books and I can't. I just I don't have time and I don't have the inclination to read books ever. I'm an audiobook guy. I'm glad, thank God for audiobooks because I can do that on the move while I'm doing stuff and take stuff.
yeah,
But yeah,
I do like
physically reading.
audiobooks. I
Yeah,
do like audiobooks, and I do enjoy reading now. But like
yeah, okay.
when I was younger, it was so difficult, and like, and it's funny because I was talking to someone um last year about, because do you know how like everybody has like an inner monologue? Well, like, do you know like how you can have like an inner monologue in your mind
Of,
of anything, just when you
just
just
everything that's going on around you. You've got
yeah,
yeah,
like you just have thoughts, and they might
yeah, yeah,
appear,
yeah, yeah.
and you just, you know, but some people don't actually have that inner monologue. Some people don't actually have a voice that's in their mind that they can hear. Some people it could just be like pictures, or it just be nothing. Isn't that mad?
I can't. I know what you're saying. I can't imagine somebody having nothing there though. How can somebody have nothing in like? So, like an example of you just what like I don't know. I used to be so vivid when I was doing my paper round as a kid, and
Hmm.
I used to think I were a bit psychic, and I used to go around and like saying something's going to move over there and see if it did. Just my imagination got wild and that kind of stuff. Do you
Yeah,
mean that
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
inner monologue? You know, thinking of stuff while you're going like you're doing your mundane stuff, and you've just got these other things going on in your mind, just looking around and
yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah. But
imagining
I think,
a different
yeah,
time.
but there are people who don't have that inner monologue, and like, and also on the other side of it, like
What do they
just
do?
going
So
back,
they just literally walk around, just nothing going on.
they
In
might
fact, I
they
can
might have,
picture a few people around here like
but no, I think some of it is more like it could be just like a general feeling. It might not be
that.
in words, or it could be like a picture or a
Yeah,
color, or you know, something like that. And I've and like and on the flip side of that, I know people who like when they read books, right? Um, like when I read a book, I'll kind of read it in my mind.
yeah. Mm.
You know, I'll read the sentence that's on the page in my mind, and I'll kind of like I make up like um a voice for the narrator and a
Mm.
voice for each of the different characters. But some people don't do that at all. They'll just
When
read
I
it.
read, I do imagine what things look like and where it's set and things.
Mhm,
So I suppose it's different for me when I'm reading. I picture things, but
mhm.
when I'm just normal, then I don't.
But
It's the opposite.
I know people who like, because like for me it takes, I'll have to read like a few pages before I can sort of like have the world around me. But I know
Yeah.
people who can just open a page, start reading the first line,
Mm.
and they'll be instantly in that, like in that sort of zone. You know what I mean? And if I had that sort of, if I had that similar sort of way of reading, I'd probably enjoy it a lot more.
Yeah.
I just find it quite. I do enjoy it, but it does take a bit of work. Like
Yes.
I couldn't read like on a train, or I'd have to like be in a quiet room. Um, because like there's so many things, and if I'll be reading a page and I hear a noise or someone walks past me or something,
It's
then
gone.
I'll look up and I'll have to sort of work my way back into it.
Well, one of the first times I think I saw you in real life as you've progressed through your music career, when I moved to Manchester a few years ago, I saw you at a conference off the record in Manchester. And we're always talking about what's the best thing for an artist to do to get the name out there and to meet people and to open up opportunities. And I've always seen you, at these type of events, networking, and just getting your name out there. How important has that been for the growth of you?
Yeah, it's like it's all just it's part of the process of learning
Mm,
kind of one how the industry works, and like say like I've been into kind of classes, and I've done master classes as
mm,
like for songwriting, and when like I usually do like a Q&A at the end,
mm.
and like all the questions aren't about like, oh, how did you write this or what did you do this. It was always like, oh, how did you get this song on the radio, or
Right.
you know things like that. And it like I think we like it's kind of easy when you're sort of been around the industry. It's kind of easy to sort of say, oh yeah, that's this, and you can sort of predict what bands do well, and what
Yeah.
bands will do well, and whatever. But like when you're just starting out, it's like all completely new. It's
Mm.
all um
And as
it's
a
sort of,
soloist as well, you're on your own, suppose as
yeah,
well. So you've got to learn it yourself because you can't rely on other lad in band that knows a few
yeah.
people that can, get you in touch with somebody else, and you're on your own, aren't you? You're there, fighting your own cause.
What I find like I've been finding more and more like the that like you kind of your reputation does precede you a lot
Mm,
more than like I probably didn't. I mean, it might have just been the case that I've been doing it for a while,
mm,
but like I found that it's sort of been coming back to me more. Like I'll be chatting to like um do you know like BC Camplight,
mm,
or I went well the other week I went to a gig. I went watching a band called Flight in Manchester, and I chatted to them like a few times, kind of just online, like when you just like
yeah,
reply to you know a comment or something.
mm,
But like they were like, oh, we listen to your stuff all the time. It's like it's really great. And I was
mm,
like, oh, that's interesting. And it's funny because like the way that music works and arts get shared around, people like sort of, even if they don't fully pay attention, they can always
mm.
absorb it. And I always get said like with this award, like so many people have said, oh, well done with the award, just like it's to see me sort of in passing, or to
Yeah.
you know and it does I think that way of, because there's another way around it where you just got sort of getting into everybody's faces, right?
Yeah.
And you just kind of say, I'm this is what I do, listen, listen, listen. That'll work to an extent, but it'll never be as powerful as just a natural,
Mm,
oh, I stumbled across your music
yeah.
and it's really great, and or I saw that you did this video or something, you know what I
Mm,
mean? And like I remember a couple of years ago, I did like an Elton John cover
yes.
where I did
Amazing.
like yeah, multiple different versions of
Mm,
me. And like I didn't really think of much when I did it. It was more of an experiment, and I just sort of put it out. And like for like a couple of weeks after that, people, random people would say, "Oh, you're that guy."
yeah.
You know what I mean?
We shared it on the Friends of RGM Facebook
Yeah,
group. This is like a private group that people of RGM talk about, and it just went loads of comments on it. Everybody loved it. People connected with that,
yeah,
and I think it was visually it was unique, because it's you playing four different instruments in one room, And you filmed it cleverly, didn't you? So you like disappear from one instrument, then you appear, then you're playing the other instrument. Visually, it was refreshing and different, and musically amazing. So people really got on board with it and engaged with that. Is that
Yeah, and I
like
think
yeah?
the process of, like, I think there's a quote by I think it's like Samuel L. Jackson or something,
Yeah.
and it says like, and I think he's been asked, in a similar way, like, how does a young actor start out, and does he need to network with loads of people? And he just says, concentrate on the craft of your art, and just try and every time try and put out something that's
Hmm.
you know like true to yourself, and something that's something that you can be proud of, proud that you're putting out there. And he said that eventually it will come back, and people will, if it's good, then people will recognize it and
Yeah.
share it. And that's I think the best way of you know getting a lasting impact on
Hmm.
somebody.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
Well, you mentioned it there. Then let's have a look at it. Let's have a look at the award.
oh yeah, here we go. So I haven't got my name on it yet, but
Okay. Wow.
it's made out of glass, so you can't you can see it.
It's got my
But
reflection on it. Yeah, there we go.
yeah,
Yeah, so talk us through, this amazing award that you've got.
yeah. So this was awarded on it. It says Liverpool International Song Contest, 2021 winner. Um, and it was well, I think like the official title is like it was the International Song of Kindness. So they kind of put out, like last year they put out like an advert asking people to submit songs that represent, to them, what kindness
Mm,
means. And it was kind of connected to John Lennon, and obviously like Imagine, because
mm,
we've got the 50th anniversary. um and I think the idea was to try and find an anthem of kindness, sort of similar to Imagine,
mm.
in the same sort of ideas. And and yeah, and like I think there's something like 1,500 people applied. They whittled it down to like 10 finalists. I was one of the finalists. I went along. We did the final. Was at the Cavern Club in Liverpool a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, I won it. I was very very shocked.
How
um,
was little, the memories of, obsessive on the Beatles and playing the Cavern, this link with John Lennon. How did that all like sink in?
I mean, it was. I think that probably helped a lot anyway, because my music's like the song that I submitted it's called Make My Day. I'll play
Mm,
it later.
yeah.
And yeah, it was like it's very much of that sort of Beatles school of songwriting.
Mm,
And I think that's because this is like the first year that they've done this competition. That I think they wanted something that kind of had that connection with the Beatles.
mm.
So I think that helped me a lot. And
Did you
and
write
yeah,
did you write the song for it, or was it a song that you already had?
no, it was a song. Well, I'd written it last year, and I'd actually written it kind of like the song's about receiving visitors when you're in hospital,
Mm,
and um and like kind of what you know sort of inspired my imagination behind it was kind of the fact that obviously last year a lot of people were in hospital ill,
mm,
and they weren't allowed to have
mm,
visitors. And obviously like sometimes the last moments of their lives um were like on their own in a
mm,
ICU. And and like we'd hear stories of doctors and nurses taking that role upon themselves to be the sort of bedside what's the word, like a bedside. Um,
Companion, friend.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know.
and like yeah, a bedside companion.
Mm.
And I kind of I sort of was inspired by this, and I wrote a song about it, and more about how it would feel if I were a patient lying there
Mm.
and someone was comforting me. And like I think that's a universal thing anyway. Everybody's had an experience where either they've had a stay in hospital or they've visited like a relative in hospital, and it's yeah, it was just that more sort of feeling of like joy and
Mm.
happiness of receiving a visitor like that when you're kind of ill, that I decided to write a song about. And then when they announced this competition, I kind of thought about songs that I'd had already, and I think I'd probably attempted to write a song, kind of just inspired by it. But then I kind of realized where like the song that I had and where it came from, and the idea behind it, and that to me it kind of symbolized that act of kindness that the doctors and nurses, had given to their patients, in being there. And yeah, and that's I think I like you said, I mentioned that when I before I played the song, and and someone I was struggling to find a word for it. I was like, and they feel, and I sort of stood there and I was like, what's the word? And someone said gratitude,
Mm.
and that that makes that's it. You feel gratitude
Yeah.
for those who come and help support, and the judges I think connected with that,
Mm.
the idea behind it. And I think there was a woman, like, because I was playing and I had my friend Molly who was singing with me, and a woman came to speak to her, and she said it was so sad. It was like she said that her father had died. I can't remember. It was either the week before or the day before or something like this. But because she was involved in the competition, she had to come, and she felt like she needed to come
Yeah.
in. And she said it just connected with her, like the song. That she told Molly this for like her to tell me, and it was yeah, it's just one of them things. And it happens the most when, like, I'll write a song kind of just from my experience,
Mm.
how I feel about it. And people, there's always going to be someone who's had a similar sort of experience and who connects with it, or even just like they'll find their own sort of meaning from it, and it will kind of touch them in a different way. And yeah, that's the beauty of music, isn't it?
It is. It's an amazing thing how a chord can strike somebody on its own, even without
Oh
lyrics
yeah.
and that kind of stuff. It's just powerful things, mate. Really appreciate you sharing that story, mate. So,
This is what I was meaning, like when I was saying about music sort of tells a story on its own,
mm.
like because the words sometimes can be too literal. They
Mm.
can be too on their nose, and for like sort of something that is as vague and abstract as emotions and feelings,
Mm.
and there's lots of different things going on. Like sometimes it's up to the sort of most abstract art form of all, which is music, um, to like fully express it. Um, and like you said, it could just be a chord that just sounds like it, or you know, a Johnny Marr kind of little twill on the
Yeah.
guitar, and it just sort of takes you to that emotion immediately.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well said, mate. Well said, mate. So, on that note, shall we play a song?
I shall. Now we've got options.
Okay.
I can
What we
hook my
got?
piano up and play on the piano.
You can
or I can just
whatever way you want to go with it, mate. Whatever ways you're comfortable with, whatever's best for you.
I don't know. Are we gonna edit this? Are we gonna edit this so
No,
I
it's all
can?
live, mate.
Oh, live. Oh, right. Okay. I think probably best with the guitar then. Uh, okay. Okay.
I'm gonna turn my mic off. There we go.
Okay. This is a song called "Make My Day," um, which was the winner of the Liverpool International Song for Kindness. As I lay on the ward, I never felt that safe and reassured. And when I see you standing by my side, what a way, what a fine way to make my day. It's wonderful to hear you say there's nowhere else that you'd rather be. I don't mind, you can go. There's a world outside your window, but I'm glad you choose to spend your time with me. What a way, what a fine way to make my day. Never assume you wish to stay and help me there. That's strange, but it's wrong and it's cruel to lay my words on you. I'm ashamed, I'm a fool, but what else can I do? You're divine, you're a treasure. You can turn my pain to pleasure. You're the one who gave me cause to go on living. What a way, what a fine way to make my day. How can I ever repay the life you gave away to make my day? What a way to make my day. What a way to make my day. What a way to make my day.
James Holt, thanks, mate. Really appreciate your time today. We'll be following your career and sharing the joy of your music, James. Really appreciate your time today, and thanks for joining us on the podcast, mate.
Have me
Thank
on.
you.
Thanks for having me on.